Hello, my name is Alison Calendar and I'm the Curator of Art and Art History at the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our first art exhibition for 2021, Atlantic Rhapsody. It features over 40 works from Robert MacLeod.
MacLeod is an interesting character. He was born in New York, but always considered himself to be Barbadian because of his Barbadian mother. He therefore knew the island quite intimately. He traveled here first when he was 1 year old and kept repeating his visits as a young boy, as a teenager, and eventually as a young man. But by the time he was in his 50s, he had decided to make Barbados his home. And here's where we begin to see his growing love and development for the island in the paintings he produced. Amongst the first of those paintings were these works showing the grounds and the buildings that are familiar to some of you of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. The timing of this exhibition is important also. MacLeod had his first solo exhibition at the museum precisely 70 years ago. We therefore wanted to celebrate that achievement and to recognize his role as a pioneer artist of Barbados, even though born in New York. The images that he shows of the buildings and surroundings, the courtyards and the gardens of the Barbados Museum are actually a major document of the museum, not just in paint, but in fact. Because MacLeod was making us acquainted with the fact that he was showing the museum in the process of becoming. If we remember that the museum had received these buildings in 1934, and the buildings were designated for different purposes and for different uses over time. But it was only in the late 40s and early 50s, when MacLeod was here, that he, first of all, started reproducing this particular environment. He was the honorary curator of the museum between 1943 and 1945, and so these works were part of his being the curator of the museum. He was curating the spaces and the buildings as much as he was curating the collections at the time. But another important point has emerged in our research about the artist, because it was also clear that by the late 40s, when Neville Connell becomes the director of the museum, and in the early 1950s, when so much had been spoken about the need for a new gallery space for art, that Neville Connell was responsible for the reshaping of the museum surroundings and the development of the first national gallery, the first art gallery, I should say, that was used for national purposes. And that is what some of these works from Robert MacLeod actually document. So we are happy to welcome this exhibition of artwork here at the museum on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of his first solo exhibition, because a number of these works existed at that time and were exhibited at that time. So it's a special welcome back for our viewers.
We hope to see you either physically or virtually to see this wonderful exhibition of paintings.